Amazon is definitely blowing up.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because people often ask the question, is it too late to get in? No, I don't know if it ever will be, because our economy is forever changing. New brands are always popping up. New products are popping up. There's always things evolving. The biggest change for us this year was doing merchant fulfilled. So having the warehouse is really helpful for that.
Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs, to the Entrepreneur Adventure Podcast, where we talk about Amazon Wholesale and how you can use it to build an e-commerce empire, a side hustle, or anything in between. And now, your host, Todd Welch.
All right, so today I have Paul Sauché. He is the CEO and founder of FBA Insiders.co. and also of Cajun Prep, which is a prep center for wholesalers and private labelers. And of course, he also is in the wholesale world with us and got his start in retail arbitrage. So Paul, I really appreciate you joining us. Why don't you tell us about your backstory a little bit?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Todd. Really excited to be here today. So I got started selling on Amazon in 2015. And I found it because a friend of mine said, "Hey, you're scrappy. I know you like to make money. Why don't I show you how to scan products at a Target? And we'll look at the Amazon seller app." And that's kind of how it got started. At that time, I had a landscape company. My background is in landscaping, agriculture, and things like that. And at that time, my wife just got pregnant with our first kid. And so I had a 9-month window to figure this Amazon thing out and say, really, I wanted to come home. And so I hit it hard with retail arbitrage. I was solo. I was getting out there with scanning apps and just learning it, doing inventory lab and all these things. And so my daughter was born in December. And after that time frame, I was actually able to take off 2 months of work. And granted, it was winter, so my landscape company and Amazon was going around the same time, and landscape kind of died off. And then Q4 just happened, and I think I sold like 50 grand in that Q4, and I thought I was a millionaire. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And so yeah, I was doing the hustle. And as time went on, I ended up buying some coaching from some people and learned wholesale. And I dabbled in RA and OA for quite some time. And one of the things that I always like to do was bolt down what I'm currently doing. So with RA, I had a team of shoppers. I had probably 4 to 6 people at one point running around, buying inventory and doing all those things. And one of the things with Amazon selling is, and I left out this detail, I started selling on Amazon with $300. So I call myself the $300 kid, and I still feel like a kid sometimes just playing on the internet. But I slowly built that up. So I turned 300 into 600, 600 into 12. My goal was 100% ROI, and just kept dumping that money over and over. And then, as you grow your capital, it's harder to spend it, right? So that's when you start hiring shoppers if you're doing RA, because you need help spending your capital. And then I switched to wholesale and realized, wow, I can spend my capital so much quicker by myself or with one other person and not have the big team. And it's not that I didn't like the big team. I mean, people ebb and flow, right? In this world, people come in and out of your businesses. And so I just hit this spot where a lot of my shoppers ended up doing other things. And then I jumped into wholesale, and that's kind of where I stayed. And so, being able to spend a large sum of money in one chunk with the supplier, buying 100 units of the same thing instead of one of 100 different things, it is nice to be able to do that. And people do that with RA as well. It's all about relationships. We were kind of talking about that before we started, right? So FBA Insiders came along about 3 years ago, where we were doing a Q4 group. I was still doing RA at the time, and we wanted to share retail arbitrage leads with people. And that's kind of how this got started. FBA Insiders was only supposed to exist for 3 months and then stop. And we ended up doing it. for 3 months doing this leads group, teach people how to do RA during Q4. A lot of people loved it, and they said, "Hey, you're not going to cancel, are you?" And we were like, "I guess not. If y'all like it, we'll keep going." And so we kept going, and here we are 3 years later with all these different services. We can talk about all that stuff that we do there. And then I started my prep center in March of this year, COVID month. So right as COVID was spiking and things were going off the cuff, I opened up a prep center. And I like to say we're going strong given the circumstances, and especially with, COVID has pushed a lot of people, a lot of brands that were maybe not so much involved in Amazon. Now they're doing a lot more. Obviously the sales have spiked. I'm sure you've seen that. We had Christmas in May, with these crazy sales, consumers being forced basically to shop online. So I have that prep center now, and we only do wholesale and private label. And one of the main reasons for that is, one, that's my wheelhouse, but two, our sales tax, I'm in Louisiana, our sales tax is almost 10%. And if you're doing OA, you don't want to ship your stuff to us. You want to ship it to a tax-free state. And if that's where you're at right now in this, then I would say just quick Google tax-free states, prep centers, and you'll find a lot of them. That's a little bit of my journey. I'm leaving a lot of details out. Doing this for 5 years, it seems like a lifetime, but it's a pretty short time in reality, but it moves quick.
Yeah. Internet years, it's a long time. It's like decades, but in reality, it's pretty short. It goes by so quickly. Yeah. Our journey has some parallels in that I started with retail arbitrage, and I added some private label in the middle there before going into wholesale. So I've got some failures in private label, but got my start in retail arbitrage, which I think is still a pretty good way to kind of learn the ropes on Amazon. There's a lot of barriers to it, but if you can get around those barriers, you can learn the systems without using very much risk or putting up very much money. And just learn how to put those stickers on and all those basic things that, a lot of people just kind of take for granted once you've been in this for a little while.
Right. Yeah. And I still believe it's a very viable model. My partner that runs the retail arbitrage group with me, her name's Tony Barnes. I think she just hit 2 million in sales and that's 100% RA.
Wow.
And she's got a team. I know other people that are doing just as much, if not more than that. I know moms that are selling, $100,000 a month on Amazon, doing RA, involving their kids. Like, it's still a very viable thing. I think with what I always tell people is like, what do you enjoy? Do you want to be behind a computer for a long time sourcing? Do you like spreadsheets? If you don't like spreadsheets, wholesale's not for you. Mm-hmm. Do you like being out in the stores? Some people love that. Some people love building teams of people and having like local people in their area. What's your scenario? Are you in your house? Do you like people in your house that work for you? Like, there's all these different scenarios that you have to think about as you grow and scale. And, for me, I would say I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm more after, like, I'm in my home office in my garage, mm-hmm. I walk out of here and I go into, to see my kids after. Like, that's what I'm after. Other people are after traveling. Well, if you want to be in Thailand, you can't do RA, or it's going to be very difficult, to have a team of people do that. So it all depends on what they're after. And I'd say all models are viable and all have hurdles. It just depends on what hurdles you want to climb, what you want to go after.
Yeah, 100%. There's good and bad for just about every model out there. Why don't we dive into the retail arbitrage? We haven't talked about that a lot on the podcast. So let's dive into what you guys actually do there and the opportunities that people have available to them.
Yeah, awesome. So we have, and this is our longest standing product or service, if you want to call it that, where it's a monthly subscription. You could do 1 month, 3 month, or 6 month subscription to a private Facebook group. And that Facebook group comes with, as of the time of this recording, 3 years of data and information and courses and the prices never changed. Like we just keep piling information in. And so we have people jump in for a month and they get what they need and then they jump out. And then we have people that jump in for a month and then they stay for like 18 months. They'll be there for a while. And so it depends on where people are at in their journey. But what we provide is basically this complete suite of helping people get from wherever they're at in their Amazon journey with retail arbitrage to where they want to be. So if they're currently just starting and they need to get approvals for brands, right? That's one of the biggest hurdles with RA. We help them with that. We have guides on how to do that. If people are selling $10,000 a month in RA and they want to bump it to $50,000 a month in RA, we help them do that. At that point, it's probably good to get ungated in Nike and Adidas. We have those services available. So in the group, it's this kind of a la carte. Where are you at? What do you need help with? We also have a team of 8 professional Amazon sellers scattered throughout the country that are posting deals. So when you get this group, it comes with, we say 200 leads a month, plus about $3,000 of value in training. So, and that comes for $149 a month. People have said like, you're crazy for doing that. I'm like, I know, but that's like, this is our kind of our flagship, what we started with. And we truly, and this, Todd, you wouldn't be doing this if you don't enjoy helping people. And so that's definitely one of our goals there. But the 200 leads a month come from actual Amazon sellers, not from VAs overseas. It's not an OA list, although we do offer that as well. But these sellers are actually grabbing items off of like Walmart shelves, Walgreens shelves, Home Depot, wherever, putting it in their cart and then sharing that product with the people that are subscribed to that. And so, there's all the data there. And then what's cool is people can ask questions like, hey, why did you buy this product? Like one thing we don't share in there is sales ranks. And people are like, well, it's a list. You should share the rank. And the reason we don't share rank, especially with RA, is because, as you know, if you're doing this for a while, you can look at a Keepa chart and be like, oh, well, there's no sale. The rank is 1 million because it's been out of stock for 4 months. Yep. But whenever it was in stock, it was 50,000 in grocery or whatever, And so that's one of the reasons why we don't share ranks, is we want to teach people how to think for themselves, how to analyze the data. And so the tagline is, we give them fish and we teach them how to fish. So our goal is to set people like sailing on their way. Like, you don't need us anymore, and we've served you along the way, and so, if they want to go from RA to wholesale, we have that option. We can jump into that. But, so we go deep into Target, how to source clothing and shoes with confidence, how to really master Walmart. And Amazon changes, as quick as we change our underwear. So there's always things coming up and issues. And we talk about those issues. We do live calls, we do giveaways. People can actually share deals with us and we'll pay them for those deals. Our deal posters aren't just volunteering, they're paid. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. What is the motivation?
Yeah, so there is BOLO groups, it's like, hey, you join and then you might be required to share or whatever. In our group, we really take this approach where when you pay to join, you shouldn't have to do any work, in the sense of adding value to the group or things like that. Like, I've created a team around this group that adds value constantly. People creating content, sharing the latest stuff about Amazon, and just if somebody asks a question, there's people that are selling well over $1 million on Amazon and retail arbitrage that are answering those questions. So it's kind of like this group coaching environment where it's a support group, there's deals being shared and all that kind of stuff. And so if you look on our website, if you go to the retail arbitrage tab, people can see a demo of how the deals are delivered. And this is pretty exciting because it's an iteration of what we used to do. We used to share the deals on Facebook. And as you know, Facebook's algorithm changes like we change our underwear. It's just, forever, like, how do you get the thing that you want people to see in front of them? So I took the deals, put them on our own website, and now people have an account that they log into. So when they walk into Walmart, they can check the Walmart box of all the Walmart deals that we've ever posted, and it sorts them by date of the most recent, and they can walk around Walmart looking for these products. And that's, it's pretty, I'm pretty proud of it. I've gotten some really great feedback about it.
Okay, cool.
I will share one of the things, probably the biggest issue that we have with the group is a lot of people think that, oh, well, I joined this group, and so therefore I should just be handed inventory on a silver platter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no service out there on Amazon like that. And if it is, you're going to make like 5% return on investment. Like it's not going to be of value. And so what we teach people is here's products you can go and find in Walmart or wherever. If you don't find that exact same product, but maybe you're in a new section of the store, it would behoove you to scan that area. Like if we give you a blue Power Ranger, don't pass up the black and the yellow and the red, like scan all of them. Look for bundles, look for multi-packs, like title search, all of that kind of stuff. So we go through all that training. We even have some like in-store shopping videos and all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's dive into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of retail arbitrage. What are people actually out there doing and looking for to be successful?
So you mean like what kind of products?
Yeah. Are they just going to like the clearance aisle and looking for clearance items? Mm-hmm. Or are they scanning an entire aisle? Or what is the process that you guys recommend to find good products to sell on Amazon to retail arb?
So I would say that depends on like category to category and store to store. So what we're teaching is like, so for example, Walmart's, everybody has them. And one of the issues with Walmart's is that the items get flooded quickly, prices tank quickly. So how to avoid that? So that's one of the things that we would teach. Let's see, give you an example. Christmas pajamas. If you're listening to this, you probably missed the buck this time of the year, but maybe put it in your hat for next year. Christmas pajamas from Walmart. So, they're licensed. Okay. So like Paw Patrol, Disney, things like that. So rule number one, get ungated in Disney and Paw Patrol. So we'll teach how to do that. And then once you're ungated, how do you source clothes? Okay. So sourcing clothes is just scan. Like you're not going to be title searching clothes. Maybe you will, but it's going to take you forever to do that.
When you say title searching, you're talking about typing in the name of the product rather than just scanning the UPC.
That's right. And so I kind of say scanning is lazy man sourcing a little bit. Most people are just going to scan. Oh, if it doesn't come up, well, whatever. So what we'll teach is like, let's say you're on the grocery aisle and you're looking at seasonal candy. I'm not being specific about a category or a product because we share all categories and all products. Bras from Kohl's, clothes from wherever. We even share Nike and Adidas every once in a while. Or we share, like we try to hit across the board. One of the biggest questions we get is, oh, I'm not ungated in anything, or how do I know I'm going to be ungated in the things you post? You won't until you try. And then if you're not, let us help you get ungated. Like that, don't just look at that as like, I'm just gonna throw my hands up and not do anything. Like, no, like look at that as a challenge to jump over because we've all had to do it. If you're going to play this game, if you're not going to play the RA game, then, just do wholesale or whatever it is. So with title searching, there's like, we talk about apps like Scoutify or ScanPower. We definitely recommend using third-party apps to do that instead of Seller Central. Seller Central, if you have like a typo at all, it's not going to pull it up. But Scoutify will pull up, or ScanPower will pull up a host of different variations and ASINs.
Yep. Scoutify is what I used back in the day. That one works good.
Yeah, still great app, and they've done a lot of improvements over the years. And so what we teach is like find those subsequent listings. Like if you scan some Reese's candy that's a Christmas theme and a single pack comes up and Amazon's on the listing, well, just title search that and look for a 3-pack or a 6-pack. Look for a bundle. Maybe there's a dark chocolate and a white chocolate. Somebody made a bundle. Piggyback on those listings. So that's the kind of stuff that we teach, is looking for those hidden listings and finding those, because more than likely they're going to have a lot less sellers on them. Because if you had to hunt for it and it took you 30 seconds or a minute in the store to find it, more than likely a lot of the people aren't doing that.
Yep.
And so that is a huge advantage that you have versus just scanning and you go, oh, well, I'm going to be first to the punch. And then there's 200 other sellers that said that. And now you're all just trying to get your pennies back out of the product.
Yep. Yeah,
So
it's always the case with just about everything. The harder something is, the more profitable it's most likely going to be, because most people are not going to put in that work.
yeah, and that's a mindset thing. And people look at hard things to go, oh man, this is too hard, I'm just going to try to find something else. And the people that say, oh, this is hard, there's a gold mine on the other end of this, and I'm going to find it. And that tenacity to and you have to do that with any of these, wholesale, OA, RA. Like, if you try to take the easy road and it's like, oh, it's not working, prices keep tanking, whatever, it's like, well, that's an opportunity to learn from mistakes. Why do they keep tanking? What can you do different next time that will make it better, down the road? And so, and look, I've lost lots of money on Amazon. I would say I'm probably, every time I do lose money, I chalk that up to paying for education. And I'm probably up to about a doctorate degree in selling on Amazon at this point. But I've learned, I still do it. I still make plenty of money doing it. It's just learning and sticking with it. And I've seen a lot of friends that don't do it anymore because they're like, it got too hard, whatever. It's like, well, that's just one less competitor, but it's also like, I think it kind of shows the character of a person. When I coach people, I'm like, I'm going to try to talk you out of this because it's not an easy road, but it's a rewarding one. I get to walk out of the store and go hang out with my kids at 11 o'clock and take them to the park. Like, that is worth it to me to go after this. And so RA, OA, wholesale, they can all get you there. And I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but
you're right. But I think one point there is really important there, because a majority of people, everybody wants to do this, internet business and try to have their own business. Well, a lot of people do. And everybody's traveling along. And in the beginning, it's easy, it's fun, you enjoy it. But there always comes a time where you just reach it and you're like, well, this sucks. This is hard. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And that's where super majority of people just give up. And maybe that 1, 2, 3% that push through that and actually become successful. So I think it's important that people understand that at some point that is going to come. And it's all about whether you push through that or just give up. And if you give up, then you're going to go try something else and you're going to reach that same point at some point over there. And that's why you get people who jump from one thing to another, and never find success, because every time they run into that difficulty, they're just giving up and saying, well, this doesn't work. Nobody's actually making any money in this.
Right. And I think on the other hand, I've been listening to the book Atomic Habits lately. I don't know if you've read that or listened to it.
I have not read it, but I've heard it's really good.
Phenomenal. One of the things that he talks about is, one of the biggest issues with business is boredom. Mm-hmm. Once you're bored, or any skill, like you think of an Olympian athlete, the guys that become the Olympian athletes are the ones that can tolerate the boredom, because like with all of this, it's so repetitive. People ask me all the time, like, man, you must really love selling on Amazon. It's like, not necessarily. It allows me to do what I want to do, like any business. However, it's what you make of it, right? And so if I can tolerate the boredom, if I can search the spreadsheet when I don't feel like searching the spreadsheet, or if I can hit the store when I don't feel like hitting the store, it's just like exercise. If I can hit the gym when I don't feel like hitting the gym, the person that shows up, those are the people that win. And that's something that we all can control. We can all show up. And, like even today, I'll be honest, I was like, I don't really feel like doing a podcast. Right? Like I wasn't feeling it, but I'm like, but I showed up and I'm glad I did. I'm here. This is fun, meeting a new friend and stuff. And so and I don't know how you teach that, like, I think a lot of it is support, like one of the biggest things with FBA Insiders, we provide a lot of support, because especially it's lonely running if you have 2 friends that sell on Amazon that live in your area, like, you're lucky. Most people have, no one to really talk to about this kind of stuff. And so joining a community, having friends to talk with, jumping on the phone, adding value to their life, helping them first, not waiting for you to be helped, first, like just those basic things, man, it really creates that environment of success and just in pushing through. And so, And on the flip side, you were talking about there's the 2% or 3% that push through, and let's say the other 97% that don't. I would say, that's sad, because many people, they're in that 9 to 5, they want to leave the 9 to 5, and then they settle for the 9 to 5. It's like, oh, I tried and it didn't work. And it's like, no. And so now you're going to live the next 30 years, like, doing a job that you don't want to do. Like, that's sad, like and that, to me, that's so motivating. Like, I want to be doing something that allows me to do what I want to be doing, spending time with my family, getting to travel, those types of things. And, being benevolent, all that stuff. And to me, money's a tool, right? And if we can have an open hand with that, there's a lot that can happen. So I'm getting more philosophy stuff, but all retail arbitrage, OA, wholesale, selling on Amazon, selling on the internet, it's a tool. And I think it helps us meet our goals. And so it's, what are those goals? For me, I wanted to come home with my kids. Some people might want to be a vagabond or whatever.
Yep. Finding your why. It's very important. We've talked about that before. And yeah, without that, a reason to keep doing it, when you hit those roadblocks and get bored and stuff, then you're just going to give up if you don't have a why to keep moving forward.
You're exactly right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I was starting to sell on Amazon and trying to go from part-time to full-time, that I had so many doubts in my head of like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Is this going to work? And then having like in the back, thoughts of like, okay, if this fails, then I can go landscape. Or if this fails, I can go be a waiter. Or if this, like, all these wild thoughts of just like, I'm just waiting for the ball to drop, And it's like, man, if I just lean into it, be confident. Like, I remember the first time I bought 10 units of the exact same thing in a Marshall's. It was like these Halo Lego sets. And it was like, I felt like I've always went really wide with my purchases. Like, I wouldn't buy more than 2 of something. And I bought like 10 of the same thing. And I was like, oh, the sales rank is really low. Oh, the data's not enough. I mulled over it for like 20 minutes in the store, and I did it. And they all sold in the same day. And I was like, why did I question myself so much? Like, I know the data. I know how to read it. Like, what I really teach people today is like, whether it's RA or whatever, you want to be a master at reading a Keepa chart. Like, that's a huge thing that we talk about in all of these groups. And it's like, really, I'm a professional Keepa chart reader. That's the way I look at myself. Like, I can read the charts like the back of my hand. And right now they're going crazy. Like, a lot of them aren't showing data. How do you get historical data? What do you do with all that? And so, but with that, it's like, once you know how to do that, there's a lot of confidence that you can have in your purchases, obviously within reason, right? Don't go crazy and buy 10,000 of something and hope that it works out.
Yeah, you can't fully predict the future from the past, but you can have a pretty reasonable idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So like with wholesale, one of the things that I teach is like, on your first order, super conservative. Like, don't get crazy. I've done it before. Didn't work. Like, the times that I was like, oh, I'm buying 300 of this thing, it's going to blow out the water. And then I buy 300, and then, oh, Amazon just decided to sell the brand, and there goes the buy box.
Yep. That first purchase is always like maybe a case or a couple cases you have to get your own data. No matter how much you think you understand the Keepa graph, you never know what'll actually happen until it's in there.
I literally told somebody that like 2 days ago. I was like, your data is the best data. Keepa is a tool. All these, Jungle Scout, they're all estimation tools. And that's just it. Remember that it's a tool. It's not, Bible truth. It is just a tool. And, use it to your best ability, because they all waver. Like, some of them really high estimations, some of them are low. Meet in the middle, and just get your own data. Like, and what I like to look at is my daily sales. Okay, today I sold 3. Yesterday I sold, 4. The day before that I sold 1. And get those averages. Okay, on average I'm selling 2 a day. That's 60 units a month. I'm going to order 60. Keep that 30-day supply rolling, and that's how how that works.
Yes. So let's roll into wholesale, since we're starting to talk about it. You sell in wholesale yourself as well. What are your targets, and what do you train people to do in that area?
It varies so much. I would say the most common things that you hear: 30% ROI minimum. Some people go lower than that. Some go 20. Personally, for me, I like to stay 50% ROI and higher. And I've done a pretty good job with that. It depends on how much capital people have, and where they're at with that. In terms of the supplier, we really promote small to mid-sized brands where that you can pick up the phone and you might get the owner, or maybe it's a team of 20 or 30. Like I've got a supplier out in Georgia. I pick up the phone, I'm talking to the owner's son, and I pay over the phone. And this is my favorite, is when they ship direct to Amazon. I don't recommend that for everybody if you're just starting out, but I've got probably a handful of suppliers that I don't have to see or touch it. And it doesn't even go to a prep center, and I own one. It goes straight to Amazon. If you can do that, that's sweet. In terms of the parameters though, I try to keep a pretty open window. It all depends on the category. Like we were talking about earlier, do you want to put forth the effort of correcting listings or, things like that? If you're willing to do some extra work, then your parameters can go a lot wider. If you don't want to do any extra work, then you're on a pretty narrow path. Distributors are good. I think it helps people cut their teeth, but to me, it's glorified online arbitrage. Is buying from a distributor. You have permission, that's good. So you shouldn't get IP complaints, ideally, depending on the distributor. Some of them just sell you stuff when they're not supposed to. Ideally, what we try to teach is help people lock in a corner, right? So building those relationships with brands. Again, more on the philosophy level. If you're relational with people, obviously they want you to spend money with them, and they want you to pay on time. If you're going to ask for like 30-day net terms, pay on time, like that kind of stuff. And so building those relationships is something that I've really done quite a bit of, and it served me, over time. I'll never forget when I got my first exclusive. I really focused on educating the brand owners, and it was this skin cream, and this guy, him and I kind of hit it off in the beginning. It came out of Canada. And I gave him these projections like, hey, well, we should sell about 300 units a month of this cream, based off of all the data that I've got. And so I ordered, half that amount or that much. I can't remember how much I ordered. But I didn't reorder for a while. And he calls me, he's like, hey, why aren't you buying the inventory you said you were going to buy? And I was like, well, you're selling to 3 other Amazon sellers. And let me just share with you how Amazon works. There's a buy box, there's rotation. I'm not going to get the velocity that I told you I could get because these other sellers are selling on Amazon. He's like, oh, well, I'll just sell to you then. I was like, oh, all right, great. Yeah, it was that easy, and then we did some listing, optimization stuff together and some different things. And that was another product that it went straight from Canada into Amazon. Like it didn't go to a prep center or anything. And, it's nice to spend 30 minutes on an order that generates $1,000 in profit,
For sure.
It's available. It's out there. So,
yeah, what's really nice about distributors is that you can get such a large variety of products. So sometimes what I'll even do is I'll open up accounts with distributors. Maybe their prices are good enough, maybe they're not. But in either case, you can then look at those individual brands that they're selling and perhaps open up an account direct with the brand. You can also negotiate pretty good prices with distributors as well. I've got some distributors that I've opened up accounts direct with the brand, but their price is that the brand direct is like pennies lower than the distributor. So it actually makes more sense to just buy from the distributor, because then I can buy in larger bulk and, save on shipping and stuff like that. And as you grow in wholesale, like talking with Scott Needham of Buyboxer, which they're doing like 60 million a year, they almost can't buy from brands, because to make sense for them, they have to buy in like semi truckloads. They can't make like a $1,000, $2,000 order with a brand because it's just not worth their time.
Right. Yeah. And it depends on, again, like we were talking about with capital, if you've got endless capital like Scott does, yeah, semi-truckloads, and it depends on the brand, like probably I would imagine in his situation, he can go after the larger brands,
oh yes,
where he can say, hey, we'll buy 10 million a year from you and lock in a contract or whatever. So it depends on your scenario and where you're at. And definitely with distributors, there's money to be made. It just depends on the landscape of Amazon. And I know you see this where brands are getting savvier and they want to go direct, right, to Amazon, or they want to have some exclusive sellers. Buying from a distributor often doesn't create that relationship with the brand. And so it's challenging to do that if that's the end goal, right? In everything that I do, I want to try and lock it in as securely as possible. Nothing's 100% secure, right? Things can always happen. But to do that as best as possible. So when building relationships with brands, for example, if you're selling from a brand, maybe they're selling to 10 Amazon sellers. Smaller brands, what they tend to do is they just go, you know what? I'm really tired of dealing with all of these sellers. Why don't I just sell to like 3? And you want to be on that cutoff line at that 3 or at that 5 or whatever they choose. And to hear the brand owner say, we're not taking any more Amazon sellers. It's sad to be on the side of the coin where you're like, I missed the buck. Yeah. But it's awesome to be on the inside of that because you're like, man, I got this thing on lockdown. My sister sells $50,000 a month on Amazon from her house, raising 3 babies. She's pregnant with her 4th, from one supplier because she got in early, locked it in, and has exclusives on several different products. And I'm like, I taught her how to sell on Amazon. I'm like, how did you do that? Like it's kind of this too good to be true, but my sister's one of those people that's good at everything she does. And it's really annoying. But she did that scenario. It's like, but this is out there for the taking. Like if people can realize like these things are available, but the only way that you get that to happen is by being there, by pushing, calling companies, getting on the phone, or just, sending out emails, whatever it is. And locking those things in. So, it definitely, it all depends on the brands that you want to go after and where you're at. So I wanted to share this story. We're talking about distributors. I actually was trying to get a distributor locally here in New Orleans to send product direct to Amazon for me. And this is about a 60 employee company. And I called this rep. And he was like, you need to talk to the owner. I was like, no one says that normally when it's like, hey, can you ship to Amazon for me? I was like, okay. So I actually drove down there, met the owner. Turns out he's 4th generation owner of this company. It's about a 100-year-old company. And he's like, man, I've always wanted to sell on Amazon. I would love to learn how to do this. And I was like, a lot of people want to do it. Yeah. And he actually was already selling to people that sold on Amazon. So he got about a 30,000 square foot warehouse. So he was selling them maybe 3 or 4 Amazon sellers at the time. And so anyways, long story short, we actually formed a partnership where we're 50% owners of an Amazon account together. And now I have access to 30,000 square feet of product with this guy. And so I brought the value to Amazon. He brought the value of the product and all of these super long relationships with these brands. I mean, brands that they've been buying from for 50 plus years. Mm-hmm. I can't bring that to the table, but he can. And so it was just this really good marriage. Not to mention we get along really, really well. Like that's super important for business partnerships. But our first year, I think we sold like 600 grand, and this is like side project. And so it's like, always for me, I'm an opportunist. Always keeping my eyes open of like, okay, how can I pivot? Another example, private label. I've created private label products from wholesale brands. Like generic products, there's no name on them or anything like that, and made my own brands. And so my ROI went from 50% on these products to 150% or 200% in some cases because I was able to increase the value.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that's kind of fun with wholesale is that you see a lot of products that maybe they're selling really well, but the listings are really bad and there's no other like good competitors. And you can find some really good ideas for private label brands just being in that world for sure. Yeah,
Cool.
wholesale and opening up an account with someone. That's another really good way that people can do this Amazon game. Obviously, you need to know the world and be the expert bringing it to the other person. But that way, I'm guessing that you probably don't even have to pay for the inventory. He's just sending it all in, and you guys are like splitting the profit.
That's right. Yeah. So we started basically, yeah, sending the inventory in. We tested it under my account for about 6 months, making sure it was a good relationship. I showed him the numbers. Biggest thing is trust, right, in these scenarios. So to establish that, and then and yeah, so now we buy the inventory together, so we each put eventually we put a large, let's say large. We each put a sum of money into a pot to say, hey, we're going to put fuel to this fire. We're going to buy more inventory. Pay ourselves back, and then just keep the thing going. And so we paid ourselves back rather quickly, and now we're just playing with the house's money and just growing it. And so that's one of the biggest things with Amazon. Earlier I was talking about retail arbitrage going full time. I went full time 3 times because of just different scenarios that happened. And one of the biggest issues is not having enough capital to keep the revolving door going. Like being able to leave that money in and safely keep growing that capital is difficult. And life happens, right? I need a new car, or medical bills or whatever. And it's like, pull that investment capital out, and now I have no money to buy inventory, or less money to buy inventory. And now you're back at building that thing up, and it's hard. One of the things that I tell people, leaving the 9 to 5 is like, if you can tolerate your 9 to 5 for a good year and a half while you're building Amazon, you'll be so much more in a better scenario, as you built that up. Versus like, I hate my job, I quit, I'm gonna go make money on Amazon. It's like, how much money you got in your savings? $1,000. Oh, well, you're gonna be right back at the job. Like it's difficult. It is, but it's doable. It's just, teaching basic math of like, you can't just take all the money and the inventory and live off of that.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on what part of your life you're in too, right? You have kids, you're married and everything, and I'm married. So if I was to fail, I have a lot farther to fall than some college kid who's sleeping on their friend's couch.
Yeah.
So that's actually an advantage of that broke college kid sleeping on someone else's couch, because you can take a lot bigger risk than someone else and have less to lose if you fail. So some people might look at that as a disadvantage, but you can also see it as an advantage as well, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. No, I was telling somebody the other day, I wish I found Amazon when I was a college student. Like that was 2006 to 2010. And so like, man, if I would have found it then, that's so early to be getting in on that. I have a client at my prep center. He's been selling Amazon for 15 years. And like, he was one of the guys that like got the email from Amazon, was like, hey, do you want to opt into FBA? We're starting this thing called FBA. It's like, man, to get in that early, like that had to be such like so sweet. But then to see all the changes, right? Like it's constant.
Yeah, so let's segue into your prep center and talk a little bit about that. A lot of people are always looking for a prep center. Maybe they don't want to have the products at their house or touch the products themselves. What made you get into the prep center world?
It's kind of a series of events that have happened, but I basically bought a building. I was getting into commercial real estate investing, and I bought a building with a friend of mine, and it was sitting vacant. And I was like, well, I need space. I need warehouse space. Why don't I just move my business into our warehouse And I was like, I have all this space. I might as well prep for other people. And there came the prep center, and I have FBA Insiders. So there's a little bit of an audience there. And so, yeah, it was just another, I'm after multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just another stream of an offshoot. And that's how pretty much everything's happened. Like Amazon's the hub, and there's all these offshoots. FBA Insiders is an offshoot. Cajun Prep is an offshoot. My partnership with my friend, doing the other distribution products, that's an offshoot. And so looking for those streams that can be automated. So like the prep center, we've got a team of 6 right now. But man, it's incredible what they can pound out in a day. We get some pretty large shipments in right now from a few clients, and our turnaround time is about 2 days right now. And I know some prep centers are like 30 days, depending on who you're working with and how jammed up they are and how much space they have and all that. So one huge advantage with my warehouse is space. We got a lot of it. And so we can do long-term holds if we have to, and storage and those things. So, so that's how it came about. One of the biggest things with prep centers too, that a lot of people say is like, how do I know you're not going to like take my inventory, or go open up an account with my person? It's like, well, first off, if anyone can do that, any prep center can do that if they want to. And so whoever you're working with, you want to make sure you trust them. And so I would like to say that my rapport over the last, 3-4 years being in the Amazon selling community and building that up and all that, like people that know me can vouch for me. And I would say whoever you're working with, get vouches from customers or, other people that are using them, and make sure that, oh, hey, there's 5 other sellers now in this listing that I was the only one of after I started using this prep center. How did that happen? And I don't think that happens a lot, at least as far as I'm concerned. I kind of stay in my own bubble. But yeah, that's how it came about. And we built some really neat processes along the way, and added some software. Well, I would say, like, I don't know if this separates us a lot from other prep centers, but one of the things we do with client communication is we use Slack. Are you familiar with Slack?
Yep.
So some people, that come to us, they never heard of it. Some people have, but it's a really just great way for my team to communicate with the client and say like, hey, there's an issue with this ASIN. Or, like, we're pretty adaptable. We take photos of inventory if we need to. We're really flexible because I'm an Amazon seller. I know the game. I can help people out. I kind of go farther than, just talking about prep. If people need help with selling on Amazon, if there's an IP complaint issue, or like, we can talk about all those things with sellers. And so, that's how it came about, and it's been a pretty fun journey.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your prices. I like how you have mostly like flat rate prices, not a lot of like hidden fees and things like that, which is really nice. Before we dive into that, though, for my own purposes, do you mind sharing what software you're using to run the prep center?
Yeah, so we use Boxed, Boxt. So have you ever heard of that before?
Yep, I actually use that one. Yep.
Okay, so we've incorporated Boxed into our processes, where it's a requirement for every client to have it. And we actually get a prep center rate, which is cool. So we make every client have that so that it just works with our processes. It helps us, man. Like, like if you've ever prepped with like only Seller Central, or even with just like, it's just
horrible building pallets.
Terrible. Oh, it's terrible. So with Box, well, we're super accurate with the box contents, the box level contents, and then we're also really quick with our preps. So the way that we've got this flow, that the way the inventory comes in our line and out the line, and all that. So that's what we use.
If anybody's interested in checking that out, that's boxt.scanpower.com. I use it to build my pallets. It's fantastic. It's the best thing I've found so far. You do get some errors from time to time, that are kind of strange, but for the most part, it works really well.
Yeah. And with us being a prep center, we have such a wide variety of product that comes in: groceries, sports and outdoors, whatever. It's all kinds of stuff, clothing. But box is kind of like that central ingredient to that, to all the inventory. Depends on what it is and the client and how much it is and all that. But box has dramatically helped us improve those processes. So, I'd like to say we're probably one of the fastest out there. Like, we've even had same day turnarounds at times of inventory where, like, if it comes in early enough, we can get on the line, get it out the door really quickly. So
what about software for like tracking the inventory in the warehouse? Are you using anything special for that?
Google Sheets. We did, eventually I wanted to build out a dashboard on our site, but I mean, Google Sheets is powerful enough and it gets the job done. You can see. So what we do is we have a spot where people can drop in their inventory of, hey, this is what's coming to you. Here's the title, ASIN, a little bit, some other information. And then we grab that, and depending on the client, they'll either build out the shipment in Seller Central, or we will build it out for them. And then we'll basically take it from there and ship it out. And so we let the client know, hey, this shipment was just received, it landed. If there's any damages, we have to know about the damages. And then, if anything's expired, if it's grocery, whatever. And then we create the shipment and then alert the client, hey, your inventory has been sent out and here comes your invoice. Yeah, it's we do a lot of custom pricing. So if somebody comes to us, they're like, hey, we're doing 10,000 units a month. We'll give them a break there. Okay. Or, hey, everything I do is glass. Can you do some custom boxes? That's what early when I'm talking about being adaptable. And this is just selling on Amazon or just business ownership 101, like, be adaptable. And so we can customize a lot of different scenarios for people.
Yeah, I love your flat rate pricing, as I was saying. And it looks, from what I've seen, very competitive. You've got a dollar an item for all the basic wholesale and private label stuff. And that includes poly bagging, suffocation warning, and all that good stuff. You even do photos of damaged items or boxes, it says there. So, and then it looks like you have volume discounts as well, depending on how many units people are sending you a month.
Yep. So those percentages there, and we can even, again, depending on what it is, like, we've got some people that do a lot of small and light. We don't have to dig into what small and light is, but for those clients, it's like, hey, if you're doing, like, if it's just F&SKU labels and it's a lot of them, like, we'll give you a big break on that. But if your stuff's like a pain in the rear, we're probably gonna have to charge you for it. We can only do it so fast. If it's like you want to do a 3-pack of glass jars, that's just going to take some time. But what we can do, though, for people that are sourcing, one of the biggest things when you're buying the inventory, you need to know your prep cost. You need to know your shipping cost, ideally, and build all that in, because if you're working with a 30% ROI, well, after prep and shipping and inbound shipping, now it's 5% or 10% or whatever, and now there's no meat on the bone. And so what we can do is have conversations with people. So on the website, you'll see there's a Calendly link there. So people can book a call and get set up with us. And we have some onboarding docs that we'll send and lock in their pricing. And then they can go to town with buying inventory. Because if you're thinking that your prep rate is $1.50 a unit, well, that 50 cents could really throw things off. Like, if you could save that 50 cents on your prep, maybe that's a make or break for you. I don't know. Yep. Especially when you multiply it by thousands of products, it adds up. So,
yep. And I don't know if we mentioned the website for your prep center is CajunPrep.com. So if people want to check it out, and you guys are in Alabama, right?
Louisiana.
Right.
We are in Cajun Town.
Okay.
Down here.
Louisiana. So. And one thing that I have done a little bit of, I used to use just prep centers mostly, But now I have my own warehouse. I still use prep centers occasionally. And what I usually use that for are like big, heavier items that, let's say I'm buying it from a supplier in North Carolina. To ship that all the way to Utah can be quite expensive. So I've actually found like prep centers that are near those suppliers and just jump it over, and then they can direct ship it into Amazon. And even paying the prep fee and everything is still cheaper than paying that shipping freight across the country. So that's another way you can kind of utilize a prep center, even if you did have your own warehouse, or maybe you're doing it out of your house or something like that.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. I did the same thing with the supplier I had in Ohio, and like the prep center was 30 minutes away, from them. And, I could ship a truckload to that prep center. It didn't cost me anything, to get it to them. But to ship that down to Louisiana, same deal. It's like, and I have to deal with it, right? So you have to see like, okay, what's worth it or not. But it is funny that we both brought it back in house, because I did the same thing. I was 100% prep centers, and I was like, you know what? I really think I can bring this in house and do it faster, cheaper, and then also like, if you need to manipulate things more, like if you start getting into some really weird bundles and stuff, and you got to be careful. Like sometimes communicating with prep centers can be difficult. I was talking earlier about the private label products I built from my wholesale brands. These were 3-part kits, and one of the ingredients of it was cardstock, paper cardstock. So it's like, okay, so this has to be packed just right. So some advice for you that are using prep centers: if you've got something that's sensitive, create an SOP of how to do the prep and just send it to the prep center. Just give this to your staff. This is how it has to be done. Mm-hmm. And that's, if somebody came to me and was like, hey, here's an SOP for this, here's how it needs to be done, wonderful. Like that helps my staff so much. It's kind of like working with virtual assistants. Clarity is key. You want to have a lot of clarity with these prep centers of what you expect from them, what they expect from you, and that will help all scenarios go by smoother.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. And make sure you evaluate the prep center as well. I'm sure you guys do an awesome job, but what I like to do if I'm going to work with a prep center is first, use their contact form to send them an email. Maybe ask some basic questions, how much would this style product cost to prep, or how long would it take for you to receive and send it back out? And even if those questions are on their website, I like to send some questions like that, because I want to see how long it takes them to get back to me. If I'm a new customer and I'm going to be coming on and it takes them a week to get back to me, it's probably not going to be great once I'm an actual customer and they don't care about me as much anymore. And then I also like to get them on the phone, after they maybe answer that initial email and everything looks good, get them on the phone, talk to them about their operations and stuff like that, and just see what kind of communication level, because that seems to be where most prep centers fall apart, is their communication with the customers. And I've had that problem before where, okay, this shipment says it was delivered 4 days ago and nobody said anything to me. Did you guys get it, or what happened? What's going on? And that can be a real pain when that communication's not there.
Well, and those two things that you just mentioned, that's exactly when I started the prep center. I was like, we're going to get things out quick, and we're going to communicate. We're going to over communicate. They're going to be annoyed with us that we give them so many alerts. Like that's what I want our customers to feel, is like, man, they are Johnny on the spot. And so I got lucky. I have a really awesome manager that he's just really great with tracking all the data and all that. Like even on our personal thing, like there's some KPIs that we track. One of them is items per man hour. And I want to look at those averages. Like, where are we at? Why was this day low? What happened here? And so like from an internal standpoint, we track things, but also for the customer, we want to track things. And so you're exactly right. I mean, man, if you try to contact a prep center and they don't get back to you for 3 days, you're like, dude, I've got 10 grand with you right now. Like, please get this out the door, or whatever it is. Like, and so we treat the inventory like it's our inventory, like, and that's, and even when we're prepping things, we want it to be in giftable condition. We don't want to be loosey-goosey with it and stuff. And so, there's from an internal standpoint of what every prep center does with their staff, how they treat them. And I think you can kind of tell when you get the owner on the phone. And that's why I like to jump straight to a phone call. Let's just chat for 15 minutes. It's only 15 minutes for me. And for you, I think it could be make or break. So it's like, let's talk on the phone. You can feel out who I am. I can feel out who you are. And there might be a thing where me as the prep center owner, I'm like, I don't want to work with you. If you're a jerk, I do not want to do business with you. There are ways. It goes both ways. We're being interviewed on both sides. And so, from there, then it's okay, let's get you onboarded and, communicate. And so, we always like to knock things out of the park, but, and two, with Slack, I love it because I get, it's on my phone and, on one hand, I don't want to be ruled by my businesses, but on the other hand, if there's an alert that's urgent, I can catch it, Mm-hmm. And the prep center is not, it's not like Amazon where it's 24 hours, we're 9 to 5. So.
Yeah, communication is definitely key. Another little thing that I like to do that can be helpful is look up the address of the company on Google Maps and make sure it's actually like an actual warehouse on Google Maps. Just another little way to kind of to verify that the business is probably legit, because a lot of people are pretty nervous about that when they're sending product to a prep center and people they've never met and things like that. So just doing the little things to kind of verify the business.
So one thing that I would say about the address is I actually don't provide mine. And the reason being is because I don't want people to send me inventory that aren't set up with me.
Sure.
So that has actually happened where, with other prep centers and stuff, it's like stuff just shows up and you're like, whose is this? And you have no idea how to contact, people just send you stuff. And you would think it's like, who would do that? I don't know, but it's happened. And so that's why I like to, I provide the address after the call.
Yeah.
And so, I get that methodology of make sure it's legit and things like that. And it's definitely one way to vet. That's why I keep it off. And maybe I should put it on, but.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as long as you give the address out, to the people once they've contacted you, so they can kind of vet you a little bit.
Yeah. And maybe put a note.
Local chamber of commerce or something like that as well.
Right. And I probably could even put a note on there of don't ship us anything until you've been set up or something like that.
Or just leave out the address number, contact where they complete address.
There you go.
But then at least they'll know your street and city and everything.
All that stuff. For sure.
All right, cool. I think we dove into a lot of really good stuff in this. If people want your prep services, check out CajunPrep.com. And then for your training and things, we set up an affiliate link for that. So they can go to entrepreneuradventure.com/insiders. And that will take them over to your FBA Insiders page, where if they're interested, they can learn about retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale. And one thing that we didn't talk about, which we can touch on really quick, is your FBA VAs. So you help hook people up with trained virtual assistants, correct?
That is correct. So if people go to that tab, the FBA VAs, there is a questionnaire that you can fill out, and there's a whole host of things that a VA can help with. So we have a full-time or part-time VAs that are available that are trained, and it's all, in Amazon, there's so much minutia, right, of things that just take up your time, handling customer messages, reimbursements, price alerts, stranded inventory, deleting old listings, feedback, all this kind of stuff. And so the VAs are trained to handle all of those things. So it's not so much sourcing as much as it is all of it admin assistant type work.
All the busy work that is super important, but is not fun to have to be doing all the time.
That's right. Now, I will say, this is not on our website. It might be at one point, but one of the things that I actually did is I had a VA that was, all this VA did was reach out to suppliers. He was trained on that. That's all he did. 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I got inundated with so many suppliers that we couldn't keep up. It was like, we don't need any more suppliers.
And the same thing.
Let's just milk our brands that we have. And so I had this trained VA, and I was like, man, I don't want to let them go. And so I had some other wholesale Amazon sellers, and I just was like, hey, is anybody interested in a part-time VA 1 day a week to go and source for you? So you get 4 days out of the month. And this is people that are kind of starting out. And so, yeah, I got 4 other Amazon sellers doing 1 day a week with a trusted VA. And I was like, this is like, they've all been really happy with it. And, for somebody that's starting out, especially if you're part-time, you don't have a ton of time to call people and reply to emails, because all the VA is doing, sending the initial email, finding the supplier, and then you field the response. So setting up the accounts and things like that. That might be something that we offer in the future as well. Because that is, once you learn how to source for suppliers, it is so time consuming to do constantly. And so, but you want that pipeline to stay filled with new, fresh suppliers until you've built up a good stash of people that you can buy from. So
100%.
Yeah. So that is the VA service. We might, I don't know. We'll see about doing the part-time VA for the wholesale sourcing here soon. And there's a shop page on our website with a lot of other like smaller mini courses and things like that. Like if you don't want to, jump into any of the groups, you can just buy like some a la carte courses and things like that. Like one of the things we talk about is gift cards, and buying discounted gift cards to really save money. Like when you're doing RA or even just personally, like if you want to go out to eat, you can buy a 20% off gift card from raise.com and save 20%.
All right. Awesome. Well, Paul, this has been fantastic. Again, entrepreneuradventure.com/insiders. If people want to check out what you guys offer over there, and CajunPrep.com. Really appreciate you coming on the show. I think this has been great. A lot of really good information. And I hope how's your Q4 going real quick?
Oh, it's going well, man. Yeah. It's been, there's whirlwinds, right? Having to deal with all these slow FBA check-ins, but making it work, Good. So how about yours? Going well?
Oh, fantastic. I'm setting records pretty much every day. So it's been fantastic.
Good stuff, man.
Amazon is definitely blowing up.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because people often ask the question, is it too late to get in? No, I don't know if it ever will be, because our economy is forever changing. New brands are always popping up. New products are popping up. There's always things evolving, I would say the biggest change, I don't know if you do merchant fulfilled. That was the biggest change for us this year was doing merchant fulfilled. So having the warehouse is really helpful for that. That's probably been the biggest thing this year. But it's again rolling with the punches and adapting and keeping it going. All
right. Awesome, Paul. Well, I appreciate it. You have an awesome one.
Great. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
This has been another episode of the Entrepreneur Adventure Podcast. Thanks for listening, fellow entrepreneur. And always remember, success is yours if you take it.